Hello students, how's everybody doing tonight? Let me just get one or two things here up on the screen and then we'll be ready to go. Perfect, it started again. Alright, I think I got the problem figured out where it wasn't automatically starting. Okay, we're almost there. Oh, need to turn this off. Okay, hopefully everybody's having a great night tonight. I know I am, and we're going to get started here in just a second. We're almost there already. Okay, great. Hello students, welcome out to our classroom piano lessons on the web. Whether it's your first time here or you are a new returning student, feel free to say hello. Always love talking to our students here in the classroom. It looks like we have a few here, quite a few here already. We got Jordan back once again. Glad to see you here. We got Lynn back. We got Adria. We got Arturo. I believe you've been here before, Arturo, unless I am mistaken. Welcome back. We got Larry back again. Let's see. Adria says, I'm doing good. Currently cat sitting for a few weeks and a little dog sitting for a few days. All right. Very nice. As you know, I like cats. Dogs are all right, too. There are a few dogs that I do really like. There's a lot of dogs I don't really like. But then there are cats that I don't really like because cats are kind of jerks. But that's kind of why I like them. Okay, Laredo says, hello, Tim and everybody. I trust that all of you are well. I am glad to join all of you for yet another forthcoming great lesson on ear training. I love and appreciate your fellow community and family. Right back at you, Laredo. I appreciate your studentship, if that's even a word, as well as all of our other great students. All right, we're going to get started here right now. Let me just get a few things, make sure everything works okay. I need to get the Facebook stream started, so just give me a second. Feel free to chime in, you know, and say hello in the meantime. This should take hopefully less than a minute. So here we go. Hello students and welcome out to our classroom piano lessons on the web. Your teacher Tim here. I want to tell you that we meet live every Friday, every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you haven't attended live yet, why the heck not? We always have a great time here together, so I wanted to invite you out. You can attend either on facebook.com/lessonsontheweb or youtube.com/lessonsontheweb. Again, Fridays, Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's just get on with our lesson topic today. Let me get everything settled here. Share this lesson on social media. Let other people know about it, because the more students we have in attendance, the more we learn. We do an awesome Q&A session at the end, and I want as many people here as possible. Okay, here we go. Yeah, hold on. So I'm a little bit further away from the microphone. I'll get there. Here we go. Oops. Okay. There we go. Now we're ready. Now we're ready. At least I hope so. Okay. Hello students and welcome to our classroom piano lessons on the web. Your teacher Tim here. We're going to come together, power up our piano skills, and share them with the world. And one thing you're going to need to power up your piano skills is ear training. Today I'm going to introduce you in ear training and the 3 things you need to be practicing in order to get good at ear training, which is training your ears. How about that? And this will allow you to play songs by ear. We'll be able to allow you to pick out mistakes a lot easier, and also allow you to learn songs easier, since it'll give your brain more information to grab a hold of. The first thing I want you to practice are scales. Scales are very important. I assume you probably know something about scales already, but I'll give you a real quick rundown in case you don't. So let's take a look here. All a scale is from one note starting in a key to the same note up an octave. and all the notes in that key in between. So the C major scale will start on C, end on C, and have all the notes from C to C. I just turned on my keyboard here, so that's why you couldn't hear the sound until now. Okay, the 3 types of scales you should start becoming accustomed to hearing are: 1, the major scale. You can recognize a major scale based on really 2 things. One is, does it sound happy, bright and happy, or sad? So you may be saying, that sounds sad. Well, are you sure? Let me play the opposite. Or I should play. Now, that one definitely sounded sadder. So this one is indeed the major scale. The major scale also has a leading tone, the next to last note, and it leads you back to the starting note, also known as the tonic. So it sounds happy. And you got that, you know, if I stopped on that note, it really bothers me anyway. It should bother you in terms of the sound, because it really wants you to pull it back to that C. All major scales sound generally the same. Now, if you have something like perfect pitch, you're going to be able to hear the difference between a D major scale and a C major scale and an A flat major scale. However, they should all sound like major scales to you no matter what. So, you know, here's D major scale. Hear that leading tone the next to last note? Well, you know that's one characteristic of a major scale. There's another kind of scale with that, though. But knowing that it also sounds bright and happy, that kind of leads you to the right direction. So I'm going to play a scale, and all I want you to do is listen and tell me whether you think it's major or not major. So here we go. One more time. Next to last note there, back up to the octave. That is indeed a major scale. Let's try this one. Well, by playing the first 3 notes, it kind of gives it away that it is indeed not a major scale. That is a type of minor scale, which gets me into the next kind of scale that I want you to learn, which is the natural minor scale. So let's take a look and show you what I mean. So a natural minor scale would be like if you played from A up to the next A and all the white keys in between. That's the key of A minor. And just by playing those notes, that's your natural minor. It starts out, this was major, by the way. This is how major sounds. Sounds kind of bright and happy, this. So you can really tell each scale by the first 3 notes. And this one, the next to last note, is not a leading tone. A leading tone has to be a half step or a semitone away. This is a whole tone away. So for it to be a leading tone, it has to be G sharp instead of A. That really pulls you back. So you know that this one is natural minor, because it has that starting sound of being dark and sad, and it doesn't have a leading tone. So let me play, kind of combine the 2 together now, or into one practice session. So I'm going to play a scale, and you're going to have to determine whether it's major or natural minor. Here we go. Oops, sorry. So what do you think? It is indeed a natural minor scale. You have the sad sound plus the absence of the leading tone. How about this one? So what do you think? Well, if I haven't given it away already, that is indeed the major scale right there. Okay. Let's add in the last type of scale that I think you should be familiar with. Of course, there's a lot of other ones like modes and things like that. But the last one I think you should become familiar with is the harmonic minor scale, which things get a little hairy from here on out. I mean, it's not too bad. But a natural minor scale, or a harmonic minor scale, begins the exact same way that a natural minor does, except that you add back in the leading tone. So it's almost like combining a natural minor with a major, where you start with a natural minor, and then you have that leading tone up there that really gives you that pull back to the starting note. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a scale, and you're going to have to determine whether it's major, minor, or major, natural minor, or harmonic minor. Here we go. All right. Oh, wait, sorry. So what do you think? Well, it's definitely minor, right? Starts out minor. Then how does it end? Well, you have that leading tone in the next to last note that pulls you back up to the tonic note there. If it was natural minor, you would have that next to last note not a half step away instead of a whole step away, which doesn't really give you that pull back to the tonic. Let's try another one, shall we? How about this one? Well, I would say that that is definitely a harmonic minor scale, because you start out, you know, kind of dark and sad, and then you have that leading tone leading you back to the tonic. All right, I think you get the idea. Let's do one more. Oh, wait. You know what? We're going to do this one. I always like to play the first three notes again. That is a major scale. So practice these on your own. Major, natural minor, and harmonic minor. If you're looking to really get a lot of practice in on these, as well as the other things we're going to talk about tonight, I have an ear training course over on my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com. I'm going to put a link in the description, but check out the rest of the lesson first before you go over there, because we're going to cover the other two things. The next one I want to cover is chords. So you should also begin to become familiar with your chords as well. If you don't know, chords are these things where you're playing two or more notes at the same time. A common type of chord that we have is known as the triad. Let's take a look. A triad, how many notes in a triad do you think? Well, if you've been following me a long time, you know the answer already. But like a triceratops has 3 horns, like a triangle has 3 sides, 3 points, a triad is going to have 3 notes to it, what we call a root, a third, and a fifth. I want you to become familiar with all types of triads. These are as following. Major. Sounds bright and happy, just like the major scale did. Minor. Sounds sad, like the minor scale did. Diminished. It's dark and sad, but it also has more of a sinister, and it just has a bite to it. You hear that? Compared to the minor. Now, when you first do this, you're going to confuse minor and diminished a lot, because they both begin with the first same 2 notes. Really, the difference is this top note. With diminished, it becomes closer together. Actually, that's where the term diminished comes from, because you're literally diminishing the size between the notes. So let's take it here. So look here. So here's major. Here is minor. So from major to minor, you move 1 note also. You just move the middle note down a half step. And then to get to diminished, you bring that top one down. So you are literally bringing all the notes closer together. So what I'm going to do before we add the last one here, I am going to play one of these chords. You're going to have to tell me what you think it is. Now, what I would recommend you do is, when you hear the chord, ask yourself three questions so far. Does it sound happy? It sounds happy, it's major. Does it sound sad? If it sounds sad, it's minor. It could also be diminished, but then the third question you want to ask yourself is, does it sound either scary, or does it sound tense at all? Because if it sounds tense to you, it's probably diminished. So what about this one? Well, I would say it definitely doesn't sound tense. And it actually sounds happy. So if you said major, that is indeed the correct answer. Let's try another one. Well, that one definitely sounds sadder, right? So the two options we have is whether it is minor or diminished. Let's think about it, right? Does it sounds sad, but does it have a bite to it? Like that would. It kind of gave it away. But no, it doesn't have a bite to it. So this one is indeed a minor triad. Let's try a few more. How about this one? Oh, you hear that bite right away? You could just hear that. That made my hair stand on end. And if it made your hair stand on end as well, then it is indeed a diminished chord, because it has a dark sound and that bite to it. All right, we're going to talk about one more type of triad that I recommend you become familiar with. And then we're going to kind of go over seventh chords a little bit, just so you know that you should be practicing those as well. All right, here we go. So you have major, you have minor, you have diminished. And now there's another one. It's called augmented. So augmented means that you are actually augmenting the space between the notes. So you're actually basically starting like you do with a major chord, except we're raising the top note up to create an overall larger distance, or an augmented distance. Now this one might get a little confusing for you, because hear how that one has a bite to it too? Kind of like the diminished did, right? So these two, if you're anything like me and anything like a lot of my other students, it is going to confuse you at first, because you're going to go through those questions in your head. Does it sound happy? Does it sound sad? But does it have a bite to it? Does it sound tense? And if the answer is yes to that, you're really going to have to finely tune your ears to hear the difference. So let us listen here. So let me play a chord, and we'll figure out what it is. So it had a bite to it, right? So it can either be diminished or augmented. And normally you're not going to be able to see the piano keyboard here when you're listening to these. So if you're cheating that way, enjoy it while it lasts. But we have this one. It has a bite to it. Would you say that it has an overall dark sound or a brighter sound? See how that one has a bite to it too? But the first two notes are the beginning of a major chord instead. So I kind of gave you the answer that this one is diminished. And you can even hear, if you're good at, this is something, by the way, I want to mention that if you're struggling right now, you have no idea what I'm talking about, you're really having a trouble, well, hopefully you know what I'm talking about, but if you're struggling hearing the differences between these, don't worry. It takes time. That's one thing I want to tell you right off the bat. So you can even hear that these are closer together than these. This one, I also like to kind of put augmented in this frame of mind. Augmented has this note up top, right? That almost sounds like a leading tone, right? It almost makes you, it almost has a sound of yearning to it, or like you have to go somewhere, right? Like if I did that, that would be kind of satisfying. So that's one way I dissect an augmented chord to determine that between a diminished chord. Diminished chord has that bite to it, but that top note doesn't really want to lead me anywhere. However, that augmented chord really kind of has more of a pull to it, at least in my brain. Okay, here we go. I'm going to play one of these four chords. We're going to kind of see if we can figure these out. So here we go. Okay. Started out with an easy one here. Hopefully you said major, because it sounds both stable, it doesn't have a bite to it, it doesn't sound tense, it also sounds happy. How about this one? Well, this one, right, definitely has a darker sound to it. So major's out. Use your process of elimination. Major's out. So it could be minor, it could be diminished, it could even be augmented, but we have to ask ourselves another question down the list. Does it have a bite to it? Well, not really, because if it had a bite to it, it might sound something like that. This sounds a little bit more stable, I would say. So this is probably a minor chord, and indeed it is. All right, here we go. Let's try another one. Oh, you hear that? It definitely had a bite to it right away. So that rolls out major, that rolls out minor, so process of elimination on these. And it can either be diminished or augmented. Well, let's try to listen here. So are the first two notes, do they sound happy or sad? Well, I would say that they sound sadder. And that top note, while it does kind of stick out at you, doesn't really have the same pull than if it had something like this. Like you really hear that top note really wants to take you somewhere. So because it sounded tense, and the beginning of it sounded minor, and the top note, well, tense doesn't pull you anywhere, I would say, and correctly, if you said so, this is a diminished triad. Okay, so I want you on your own to practice these. Again, my ear training course is a great way to do this. We talk about this stuff in a lot more detail, and also I provide you with examples and things to practice so you can get better and better. But we're going to move on to, actually really quickly, I want to talk about seventh chords. So seventh chords is something you should be aware of. Master your triads first. Honestly, if you're just still getting the hang of these triads, do not move on the seventh chords. But you should be familiar with a major seventh chord, which sounds dreamy. A dominant chord, dominant seventh chord, which sounds bluesy. So whenever you hear me play the B-flat blues, those all use dominant seventh chord. So if it sounds like blues, dominant seventh. If it sounds dreamy, major seventh. If it starts with a minor sound, but also has that seventh on it, like the blues scale does, or the dominant seventh chord does, then it's a minor seventh chord. And then you probably should also be familiar with half diminished. You can hear that diminished chord on the bottom. And fully diminished chord, which has the most bite to it, the strongest bite. So you should become familiar with those as well. I'm not going to go into those in detail right now. I just want you to get started on those triads. Okay, let's get on to the next important part of our lesson, which is intervals, probably the most important thing. What is an interval? Well, an interval is the distance between two of really anything, right? But in this case, we're talking about between two pitches. So a pitch on the piano is a note here. A pitch higher is, a note up there. So a pitch is actually like where it is on the piano in terms of up or down. Those are pitches. An interval in rhythm's a little bit different because you can have fast intervals between the notes and slower. That's a time interval, though. These are pitch intervals. I want to mention that. Okay, so here we go. So intervals are really useful because they have happened in music all the time. And as you get to recognize these, you will get better and better at picking them out in your music. Like I said, the big point of ear training, other than being able to play by ear and developing that skill, is being able to pick out mistakes in your own playing. So if you know what these sound like already, you're going to be able to pick out mistakes a lot easier. The key to intervals, hearing the difference between, say, this and this, is assigning a song that you're familiar with that starts with one of these intervals. So when I teach what we call a major second, by the way, let me explain intervals a little bit more detail for a second. So an interval is always designated by a number. So if you had a note and you and your friend played another note on another piano the exact same place, that would be called a unison. Or, you've probably heard the term singing in unison before. That means everybody's singing the same notes and the same pitches. Now, a note that's one away is actually called a second because you count the note on the bottom, note on the top. So 1, 2. The note, so you can pick out a second pretty much anywhere because the notes will be close together. They're either going to be a half step away or a whole step away. Either way, that is a second. Now, there's different types of seconds, but just to show you what a second is. Now, if you bring it up one note further, that's a third. You count the outer notes, 1, the note in between, 2, 3. So that's a third. Thirds are evenly stacked. So the beginning of a triad is actually composed of thirds. Now, if you bring that up one more note, that's a fourth. One more note is a fifth. So that's how the numbering system, 6th, 7th, and 8th, aka octave. Now when I'm teaching major seconds, which is a whole step away, or whole tone, some people might get on me in the comments, I teach the piece Happy Birthday. Because at the beginning of that piece, Happy Birthday, that birthday is actually a major second apart. So if I play like this, well, that's a major second as well. A major second will also sound like the beginning of a major scale. Like that. A minor second is the piece Jaws from the movie Jaws. Like that. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to play either a major second or a minor second. I'm actually going to put, because this one's really easy to identify on the keyboard, I'm going to play it. And what do you think? Do you think it's Jaws or do you think it's Happy Birthday? Kind of gave it away a little bit. But that's Happy Birthday. By the way, that minor second has a bite to it, kind of like the diminished chord did. But that second is a bit more stable. You can hear that it just has more of a pleasant sound. Now, it's pretty easy to hear the difference between those two. Like if I play this one. What do you think about this one? Well, that doesn't sound like Happy Birthday, does it? But it does sound like the beginning of Jaws. So there you go. So you want to do this for all of your intervals. You want to assign a piece for like thirds, fourths, which happens to be the wedding theme. A major third. Oh, Kumbaya, major third. So if you hear Kumbaya, my lord, that is a major third. If you hear the wedding bells, that is what we call a perfect fourth. So let's just quickly go through these. I'm going to play one of the ones I've talked about so far. Think about what does it sound like Happy Birthday? Does it sound like Jaws? Does it sound like Kumbaya? Or does it sound like the wedding march? So here we go. You ready? What do you think? That is Jaws. So that is a minor second. Okay, let us try another one. So, Kumbaya. Oops, Kumbaya, my lord. So that is indeed Kumbaya, which was a major third. So I think you get the idea on how to get these in here. Let's try this one. What do you think? Well, that sounds a little bit like a third, right? Kumbaya. Not quite. It doesn't really fit. So you might actually have to kind of sing the song to yourself to see Happy Birthday. No. But, no, it's not Jaws either. So it has to be... Whoops. Has to be the wedding march, which is a perfect fourth. So I think you get the idea. Assign a piece for all of these. Fifth is... right, is Star Wars, as you know. So assign a piece for all of these, and that's how you learn your intervals. Practice your intervals. Practice them, practice them, practice them, practice them I implore you, because intervals, out of all these things, first of all, intervals, everything is made of intervals in music. Everything we talked about today. So major scales, made of intervals. Happen to be a lot of seconds in there. The chords, intervals. They also have intervals on the outside, a fifth there. How about, well, and then intervals themselves have intervals. I was trying to think of the third thing we talked about, but that was intervals indeed. Okay, so remember, the three things you want to practice to get better at ear training are what? What, guys? What? Think about it. Write it in the comments. Think about it. Think about it. What is it? What is it? It is scales. What three types of scales should you be able to recognize? This is quiz time. Making sure you are paying attention the whole time and not sleeping and drooling at your desk. The three types of triads you should be familiar with are, or first of all, you should be familiar with major, minor, diminished, and augmented triads. And then what? You should become familiar with the types of seventh chords. Start with your triads first. Make sure you master those even before you do the seventh chords. What was the next thing? Oh, the scales, I meant to say. Sorry, I got confused in my head for a second. I know that didn't sound right. The three types of scales you should be familiar with are major. I'm the one sleeping at my desk. Major, natural minor, and harmonic minor are the three. And then obviously I gave you the answers to the next part, which was all of your triads. Become familiar with those as well. So, all right. Looks like everybody's getting the right answers here in the chat. I just want to say hello to some people real quick. I want to say hello to Jason Roy. Welcome out to our classroom. Anybody who is here, Truman, welcome. Anybody who's here, whether you're new or returning, I want to quickly let you know that we meet Fridays, Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So whatever 30 minutes ago was for you right now, that's when we meet. So Fuddy Duddy asks, and welcome back Fuddy Duddy from Cold Bangor, Maine. He asks modes. Yes, you do want to listen for the difference between modes. However, we're not going to cover that in tonight's lesson, only because this is an introduction in ear training, and I didn't want to muddy it up too much. I feel like if you're new to this type of thing, this is going to be plenty to get you started. All right, let's see. So I'm going to open up the floor to questions right now about ear training, about learning piano. By the way, on Sunday, it's going to be an open question-answer session about learning piano or anything music related. So what I want you to do is, if you plan on attending on Sunday, bring your best questions with you, and I'd be more than happy to answer them for you on that live stream. Okay, Sergio says, are melodic scales commonly used? And they are not commonly used. You're probably talking about the melodic minor. There's another type of minor called the melodic minor, where you start out as a minor scale, but you finish as a major scale. Again, I left that out because I felt like it would confuse newbies a little bit. But it starts out minor, you finish out major, and then what you do is you take these next to the last two notes and you flat them on the way down. So it's actually a natural minor coming down, a minor major hybrid going up. So again, that's why I didn't mention it, because it just muddies things up. I always like to introduce those things to my students that way, where I kind of oversimplify it sometimes, but I do that on purpose, because if I start introducing all of the little exceptions to the rules and everything, and all the little in between and minutia, people tend to get confused. So one thing at a time. Like I always mention on this channel, I'm always a big fan of doing less things really, really well instead of too many things really, really poorly. Nobody is going to remember you for all the average stuff you did. I mean, except for your family, but you know, in the world, nobody's going to be like, oh my gosh, Tim just was the most average, I don't know, scale player in the world. Instead, they're going to say, oh, Tim was the best scale player in the world. In fact, I don't know. You might have to do something a little bit more complicated than playing scales, but that's just kind of my methodology thinking behind all of it. Barbara says, melodic minor sounds like Hail to the Mountain King. Yeah, you know what? It does have the notes of the melodic minor to it. I know I butchered it a little bit. Okay, distinguishing Skippy. I'm going to call you Skippy. Yo Jiffy Skippy. Oh, no, it's not that hard to pronounce. Distinguishing chord types in such harder than intervals for me. Okay, I'm struggling with major versus minor. Some of the major chords like D sharp sound sad to me. What order do you recommend learning the intervals? Learn the intervals from one to, unison to octave. Unison you don't really need to practice because it's the same note. And so learn your seconds first, your major and minor seconds, kind of like we did today. Then move up to the next one, thirds. Get your major and minor thirds done. Go up to fourth. So learn them actually in order of their distances first. In terms of having trouble listening between major and minor, that is very, very, very normal, especially at first. What I recommend you do if you're practicing on your own, so just say you hit, well, this is hard for you to do. If you have a teacher, it's a lot easier because this is what I do in my ear training. If I notice that the student's struggling hearing the difference between two chords, I do this. I actually say, okay, so if I'm like, all right, the first round, tell me whether this is major or minor. And they say, well, that's minor. I'm like, no, that's major. So what then I do is I say, okay, I'm going to play two chords back to back. You're going to have to tell me which one's major or which one's minor. Students who struggle at first do a lot better at this because they have something to compare the chord to. So here's the first one. Here's the second one. Well, the first one was definitely major. Second one's minor. So it's a lot easier to do when you have something to compare them to side by side. Sometimes if I just say, okay, what is that? It might be a little bit harder for you to do, but if you can hear the difference, then it's a little bit easier to pick out. And then I find students after a few weeks of doing that, they're pretty much fine with it. Okay, any other questions? Okay, let's see. Sunday's question will be, are left-hand chords played the same as right hand? All right, I'll answer that in more detail on Sunday. But the answer is yes. The only difference between left-hand chords and right-hand chords is that your hands are mirrored. So your fingering is going to be mirrored. So with a C major chord in your right hand, that's fingers 1, 3, 5. I always number chords, intervals, everything from the bottom interval to the top interval. Whereas the fingering with the left hand is 5, 3, 1. They're played the same way. You just have to keep in mind that your fingering will be inverted. Well, not inverted, but flipped around. You know what I mean. Mirrored. Thanks for the info on the double flat and the double sharp. You're very welcome, Bernadine. Okay. Okay, while some more questions are coming in, I am going to go over what we're going to be talking about. Oh, I kind of did on Sunday, but let me... If you are interested in becoming a regular... we have Streamception going on. If you are interested in becoming a regular part of our live stream, I want you to go to pianolessonsontheweb.com, click on the community tab up at the top, and what you can do is you can fill out this form. You're going to get a reminder 30 minutes before we meet. It's a lot more reliable than YouTube. And you scroll down and there's a calendar of what we're talking about and when. Now, I do have to spend some time filling out this calendar some more. So all that's really listed now is the ear training tonight, Sunday answering student questions. Because the summer, the schedule is a little bit wonky, but I will try to fill it out for the next couple of weeks so you know what is going on. So remember the community page, pianolessonsontheweb.com. Remember, piano lessons on the web, same as the channel, .com/community, or you can click on the community tab. And that's how you want to get there. I highly recommend, if you're like, I dig these, I really dig these classroom live sessions, and I really want to become a regular part of it, you definitely want to fill out that form and get a reminder 30 minutes before we meet. So I mentioned that also that I have a course over on my website, same website, pianolessonsontheweb.com, called Ear Training. So let me get it for you, or get it up here. So you go on the courses, Ear Training, and then you want to click on View Course. And there I have my ear training course, where I really go in a lot more depth about the things we talked today. You're gonna learn a lot more about identifying chords, a lot more identifying intervals, scales, and actually playing back rhythms. There's a rhythm aspect to it as well. And it's actually just a lot more comprehensive than what we talked about today. It has instructional videos like the ones you've come to expect, along with printable notes and practice examples. If you are interested in any of my other courses, because I have a lot of them, check out the website. There's actually a summer sale going on right now. It says that it ends today. I'm actually going to extend it until Monday. What is that, the 25th? Let me check this. Yeah, Monday, that's how math works. Counting works. Math the 25th. Sorry, June 25th on Monday is when the sale ends. Features of the online courses are they're all lifetime access, so no need to worry about expiration dates. You can learn piano, music theory, rhythm, ear training like we just talked about, and more. They come with instructional videos, notes, worksheets, and sheet music. And they're courses for beginners, intermediate, and advanced students. So if you like what you see over here on the YouTube channel and you're thinking to yourself, I'm looking for more, you know, I really dig Tim's videos, and I really am ready to start taking learning piano more seriously, whether you're a beginner just starting out or you know some things already and you're ready to start taking things to that next level, check out my courses, pianolessonsontheweb.com. Hello, let's say hello to some people. First, I want to thank Linda Reitz for the super chat. Thank you so much for supporting our channel, Linda. Really appreciate that. T. Parker, or F. Parker, says, hey, hello, welcome out, Parker. I'm so happy you could join us. If you want to join us again, we meet Friday, Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So happy you could come out and learn with us today. All right, let me get back to some of the questions that I may have missed. Okay. Jason Roy says, I'm razor sharp at picking out chords and intervals, but within a span of seconds, I can go brain dead and can't figure them out. Is that normal? The answer is absolutely. I liken this, and actually I got this from my teachers growing up, I liken it to smelling perfumes. So, or any kind of scent, right? So if you have a lot of things that smell in front of you, scents, they tend, at first you can say, okay, this smells like an orange, and this smells like a banana, and this smells like whatever. I know this is probably not something a lot of us are familiar with doing all the time, but if you're used to smelling a lot of smells all at once, you can determine them at first, but what'll happen is they start getting mixed up in your brain. And that is very normal. As you practice ear training, it will get a lot easier for you to do. Let's see. Are there harmonic and melodic minor chords? No. Or are there only one type of minor chord? Yeah, so there's only one type of minor chord. The only deviation from that are inversions. So a minor chord, or any chord, for example, can appear with what we call the root, or the name of the chord, on the bottom. So if this is a C minor chord, C is on the bottom. However, if you have the same three notes, but you switch up the order, so instead of C, E flat, G, I'm going to have E flat, G, C. That's what we call first inversion. It's still a minor triad, it's just in first inversion. So those are the only differences in the types of chords you can have within those types. So there's only one type of major chord, or only one type of major triad. I mean, there are major sevenths, things like that. Thanks, says Jason Roy. You're very welcome. Let's get you back up here. Okay. All right, any more questions about what we talked about tonight, which was ear training, or just any questions in general? I want to invite everybody right now to come to our live stream on Sunday, same time, where it's going to be a smorgasbord of me just answering questions, your questions about learning piano. So if you've ever had a burning question that might take a little bit longer to answer, might be off topic for what we're talking about today, Sunday would be the perfect time to bring those questions. All right, allergies are back again. So let me deal with that. All right, I think I'm okay. Here we go. All right, any more comments or questions tonight? I want to thank everybody for coming out. I mean, I'll stick around as the questions roll in if there are any more. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and being a part of something that means a lot to me, which is our classroom here on YouTube. It really keeps me energized. Your interest in the lessons, your communication, your engagement in these live streams, and also in the comments. Like I said, it just really keeps me motivated. And like I say all the time, if it wasn't for all of you, I would have stopped doing this a long time ago. And it really means a lot to me to come here and teach you at these live streams. It's really a lot of fun for me. I see that a lot of you get a lot out of it. So it's really awesome. And I know, there's a lot to be said about the work I put in. But like I said, if it wasn't for your interest and you just showing up, I would have stopped doing it already. But I'm loving it. And part of that is thanks to you. Sergio says, thanks. You're very welcome, Sergio. Abigail says, intervals always puzzled me. Linda Reed says, love these lessons. Thank you very much, Linda. I have a lot of cool things in the works for the channel, by the way. I don't want to talk about them a whole lot. I did mention them in my community post earlier this week, but there are definitely even some other things in the works. I got to buy this house first, though, which I've been working on. If anybody's wondering how it's going well. I found a house I really liked, although I'm I might have to walk away from it because the sellers are being butt heads. And I mean, they're not doing anything to me, just in terms of negotiation. They don't seem to want to come down to where I want. So I might have to walk from it. They may change their minds. I don't know. There are other houses out there, but hopefully I can get that knocked out by the end of the summer, but definitely by the end of the year, I hope. I know it can take some time, and I really, the priority is really finding a good home first rather than fitting into any kind of time constraint. It would just be nice, to get it done in that time. All right, everybody. I think that pretty much probably does it, right? Does anybody have any other questions? We'll end a little bit earlier tonight, but we'll be back on Sunday where I'll be answering your questions. So make sure what I want you to do is just write down a list of maybe 2 or 3 questions you have. Come to that live stream. Let me know what they are, and I'll be happy to answer them for you there. Funny Day says, Tim, get a Lance RV. It is cheaper and really nice. I don't know about that. I don't know if it would fit the office in there. I'm not... You know what? I'll look it up later to see what it is, but I don't think I'm going to get an RV. Thank you, says Gabby Ramos. Well, welcome, Gabby. I believe it's my first time seeing you here. You could have been here before, and I do apologize if I just don't remember. But anybody else that's, if you're a first timer here, I really want to see you again. I want you to become a part of our classroom. I know something that when there's more of us in here, the better of a class we have, because the more questions get asked, the more engagement there is. Even if you're that type of person that just sits back and relaxes and enjoys the lesson, that means a lot to me as well. So I'd like to see a lot of you, all of you, in future live streams. All right, everybody, I'm going to sign off. You have a great night, and I'll talk to you on Sunday. So this has been Tim from You-Know-Where. Actually, you know what? I got to do a formal outro. Let me do that before we go. If you want to learn more about ear training, make sure you check out this playlist right here. Also, I have an ear training course as well as a lot of other courses over on my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com. So if you want to get an iron grip on your intervals, your scales, and your chords, hearing them, check out that course. All right, everybody, this has been Tim from Piano Lessons on the Web. Thank you so much for being a part of our classroom, and I'll see you in the next lesson. You're very welcome, Fuddy Duddy. Thank you very much, Jordan, Bernadine. You have a great evening as well. Larry, thank you for coming by. Sergio, and everybody else, Parker, and everybody else who came by tonight. Jason, Yo Jiffy Skippy, I love your name. Adria, thank you. Truman. Let's see, anybody else? Fuddy Duddy, I think I already said your name. Abigail, of course, how could I forget? Good old Abigail. And Arturo. And I think that's almost it. If I miss, oh, Barb Moody was here. Thank you for coming, Barb. And everybody else. If I missed your name, I do apologize. Lynn was here as well, I saw. All right, everybody. You have a great night. And I will talk to you real soon on Sunday. So thanks a lot, and see you later. You're very welcome, Yo Jiffy Skippy. You're very welcome, Terry, Fuddy Duddy. Everybody, have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon.